Well, there's growing evidence of a decline in support for the Indigenous voice to Parliament, and it should concern anyone who wants to see this referendum succeed. It comes as the No case raises concerns repeatedly about the voice sparking legal challenges and slowing down the decision-making process of government. Joining me now is RedBridge Group Director Simon Welsh. Simon, you've been conducting focus groups talking about the Indigenous voice, the upcoming referendum. What is coming through loud and clear to you in these groups?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. There's definitely some alarm bells ringing for the Yes campaign. So what we're seeing in our focus groups, of course, you've got the folk who are, vehemently in favour of the voice, and you've got the folk that are vehemently opposed. What we're seeing is in this middle group, which is the majority of folk in our focus groups, with remarkable consistency, what we're now seeing is this sort of quiet growing frustration at the way in which the voice is being communicated. So these are folks, what they're saying to us is, we really want to do something meaningful for Indigenous people. It's not about that. It's not about race. It's not about any of those things and they're certainly not responding to those sorts of messages from the No campaign about, you're going to divide Australia on race, or you're going to give Indigenous people more than a fair say. It's not about any of that. They really want meaningful kind of action around this. But that's not what they feel they're getting from the campaign. So they're talking about, look, we're confused about what exactly is proposed, and we're confused about how this is the right thing to do for Indigenous people. Why this? Why not something else? So, and it's leading to this sense, as I say, of sort of frustration. Now, folk in the groups are talking to us about feeling pressured to vote a certain way without all the detail being given to them. So it's not a frustration at Indigenous people, certainly not. It's not a frustration at even the issue in itself. It's a frustration at the communication. It's a frustration at the campaign. So some real issues there for them going forward.
So are they using the word resentment and frustration? What are they saying to you exactly?
Yeah, they talk about feeling pressured and feeling like, I suppose the vernacular would be sort of being taken for a mug. Like they feel like we're not being given all the information, that it's almost like this infantilizing kind of response where they will say, look, all we're being given is the vibe. We kind of agree with the vibe, but we're not getting what we need to feel like we're an informed adult making a decision.
Yeah, right.
That's
so the message is coming through. We're not stupid. We know this will change things. Just give us the answers. We can handle them.
Yeah, and it's a real risk, because right now, across the board, every time we talk to anyone about politics right now, and we've talked about it on this program, is this appetite and sensitivity to real meaningful change, and just an absolute cynicism around anything that's seen as a band-aid solution or a token gesture or anything like that.
Yeah, right.
And it's getting caught up in that sort of mood of the moment. So I think the campaigns here are really sort of missing this mood of the moment, which is, we want to see the substance. We want to see the detail. Let us make an informed decision about it. You can trust us to make an informed decision about it. We need more than just the vibe.
Wow, that mad as hell. They're not going to take it anymore. That's what it sounds like, Simon.
It is a pronounced and remarkably consistent thing. So even when we're doing groups with down in Melbourne behind the Quinoa Curtain, as we call it, with the wokies.
Quinoa Curtain. Where's that? Who lives behind such a curtain?
Usually runs in Melbourne around, for those who know Melbourne, around Bell Street is usually jokingly referred to as the Quinoa Curtain. You come south of that and you come into very much the Greens Coast. But even there, so what they're saying there is, it takes a different kind of spin, but it's the same issue. So what we're picking up in those focus groups is they're saying, well, why voice? Why are we doing voice? Why aren't we doing treaty? So that why case is not being made. And that's sort of the tricky bit. Why this idea? How is this going to make a really meaningful difference to Indigenous people? Nail that message, and there's a lot of latent support there that's just waiting to sort of fall in behind it. But it just needs that support. That just needs that argument to be maintained. Now, the problem for the Yes campaign is, the other thing that we're picking up in our group is this idea that the back half of this year economically is expected to be worse than the front half. And there's a lot of people talking to us about mortgage cliff, their fixed rates going over to variable. The capacity to reach people is going to get harder as the year unfolds. So there's a real sort of urgency around this as well. It's yeah, as I say, it's a real alarm bell.
Fascinating, Simon. As always, thanks so much for that. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Laura.